Hi, this is Aquarian Anarchy, and I'm Marcus Pulis, and it's been a busy week. Before I get started, I'd like you to like, share, or comment after we're done here. I want to hear what you have to say. It's important that we communicate in this interesting time. So, to get started in the news of the week, I obviously am going to begin covering the government flu or the coronavirus and how it is impacting everybody's life. I haven't actually, other than the fact that I get to stay home majority of the time, I haven't seen an awful lot of real difference, really. I agree with my friend Adam Kokesh, and that we should be resisting the urge to change our format. They don't control us. Obviously, it is wise to take precautions, wash your hands, keep distance. If you think you might have it, keep yourself away from people, especially old people. All of that makes an awful lot of sense, and it isn't fearful. But they want you to be afraid. And they're using all of this to grab onto power. And one of the best examples of that came out in a Rolling Stone article by Peter Wade. And to be clear, he took a lot of his information from an interesting article in, I believe it was Newsweek. But this is the article. So, the DOJ wants to suspend certain constitutional rights during the coronavirus emergency. The Department of Justice has secretly asked Congress for the ability to detain and arrest people indefinitely, in addition to other powers that one expert called terrifying. So I want to dig into that. Who still believes that the Constitution is relevant? Who still believes that? I've been saying this over and over and over again. And I've pointed to the quote from Lysander Spooner, where he basically says that the Constitution was either not intended to restrict government, or it has been completely ineffective at doing so. Either way, it has no basis. These people do not care at all about whether or not they're following the Constitution. They do not care at all. It's not that they care a little bit. They don't care at all. There isn't a single bit of care in anything that they are saying. To say that there is naive. They just don't. And the fact that they are willing to just suspend it, just throw it out the door, says to me that they don't care, so neither should you. And so this article goes on to say, the Trump Department of Justice has asked Congress to craft legislation allowing chief judges to identify, indefinitely hold people without trial and suspend other constitutionally protected rights during the coronavirus and other emergencies, according to a report by Politico. Sorry, it was Politico, not Newsweek. Betsy Woodruff Swan. So what they're saying is, just because we have people with the sniffles, we're going to go ahead and just shut her down. Why have a document? If you're gonna believe in this document, you have got to believe that if they can just throw it away at the willy-nilly of a sniffles, this is not that big a deal. It has not killed that many people. They throw big numbers at you. They say, oh, so many thousand people have died. Da, 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 da. There are billions of people on the planet. This is an overreaction, and it is an overreaction on purpose. This is not at all by accident. I'm not saying that they for sure planned this. I don't know. I don't have proof that the government or the Chinese government or this or that government did anything. I don't have any proof of that, nor do I think we ever will. But what I do know is that they are definitely capitalizing on it. So, while the ask from the Department of Justice will likely not come to fruition with a democratically controlled House of Representatives. Like that matters. You could tell that Rolling Stone tends to be left or support Democrats, because these idiots in the Democratic Party want more and more government control. So any kind of thought that they would be some kind of balance is got to throw up red flags, because they have never seen a government program that they don't like in the Democratic Party. So the fact that that's bullcrap. This is all going to be rubber stamped, anything they want, and the only reason that they won't do it is because the American people won't put up with it, and it is time to start saying we will not put up with it. This is not going to happen. We will not allow it to happen. Mike Lee recently said that this will happen over his dead body, and he's a Republican, but he is a liberty-leaning Republican. Now, that doesn't usually mean anything, but I applaud him for saying it. They demonstrate how much the White House has frightening disregard for the rights of the enumerated in the Constitution. The White House has disregard. When's the last time that the Congress required them to follow the Constitution when going to war? When did that happen? When did that ever happen? It never happened. They don't care. It's not the White House. This isn't an attack on Trump. Trump sucks, I agree. But they all are just as corrupt as he is, because this is what government is. It is corruption, it is ineptitude, and it is the inability to react. That's how centralized government fails. That's why localization is a better solution. So, the DOJ has requested Congress allow any chief judge of a district court to pause court proceedings, quote, whenever the district court is fully or partially closed by virtue of any natural disaster, civil disobedience, or other emergency situation. So they just declare an emergency and presto, the court's in charge. How does that make any sense? This is just the broadest definition. This is tyranny. In my last video, I said, tell me how this is not tyranny. Show it to me. I want to see how this is not tyranny. The answer is, it is tyranny. This is exactly what we have been warning about for a long time. I have wanted to be wrong that this was on its way. Well, guys, it's here. This is what the government wants. They want control, they want to restrict, and they want, absolute domination. This would be applicable to, quote, any statutes or rules of procedures otherwise affecting pre-arrest, post-arrest, pre-trial, trial, post-trial procedures in criminal and juvenile proceedings and all civil processes and proceedings. In other words, we gotta get those potheads thrown into jail, and this is how we get it. And, and if you speak out against these people, they've already said, I covered it last week, go look, they're going to use this against people like me or people like anyone who is speaking out against this. This can be the justification that they need, because it's, as it said above, civil disobedience. I disobey. I'm telling you right now, I disobey. I will continue to disobey because I don't obey psychopaths. I don't do it. Period. That's the end of that question. I don't obey psychopaths. I suggest you don't obey psychopaths. So what's that mean? That means I'm seditious. I am calling people to action against unjust, unethical rules. It is what it is. It is time for people to start thinking for themselves and realize that this is all a plan to silence the majority. It goes on. They justify this by saying currently judges can pause judicial proceedings in an emergency, but that the new legislation would allow them to apply it in a consistent manner. Because they're not consistently taking your rights away anyway. It goes on. But the Constitution grants citizens habeas corpus, which gives arrestees the right to appear in front of a judge and ask to be released before trial. Enacting legislation like the DOJ wants would essentially suspend habeas corpus indefinitely until the emergency ended. And they'll keep this emergency going as long as they possibly can. This is not going to be just tomorrow. Oops, we're going to be all right as of tomorrow. Further, the DOJ asked Congress to suspend the statute of limitation on criminal investigations and civil proceedings so they can go back and get shit you used to do. So they can go back and get anything you started to do. No, we don't need any. We need to be able to go in and just grab people for any old reason during the emergency until a year after it ended. Norman L. Reimer, executive director of the National Association of Criminal Defense Lawyers, told Politico that measures was terrifying. If people are talking in Politico that things are terrifying, Jesus Christ, imagine how bad it really is. Quote, not only would it be a violation of habeas corpus, but it says affecting pre-arrest. So that means you could be arrested and never brought before a judge until they decide that the emergency or the civil disobedience is over. I find it absolutely terrifying, especially in a time of emergency. We should be very careful about granting new powers to the government. They have too much. How many times have even Republicans said this is an out-of-control government? So you want to give them more power when they're already doing stupid crap all over the damn globe? It goes on. That is something that should not happen in a democracy, he added. And then they keep saying a democracy. That's such crap. We don't have a democracy. We don't even really have a republic. We have a bureaucratic dictatorship where a bunch of people behind a closed door with cigars tell people how to vote and make people believe that they have any fucking kind of control of anything. You are not represented by this government. These people do not serve you. They serve their own interests and pretend to give a damn about you. And in this response to the coronavirus is absolutely all the proof you should need. It goes on. The DOJ also asked Congress to amend the federal rules of criminal procedures to have defendants appear at a hearing via video conference instead of in person with the defendant's consent. Although a draft obtained by Politico, the sections about requiring consent was crossed out. But it's not just Americans' rights to the DOJ want to violate. They also asked Congress to pass a law saying that immigrants who test positive for COVID-19 cannot qualify as asylum seekers. All right. As much as I really think that immigrants get the shaft in this country, I'm not all that concerned about the people trying to get here. One, if they see this place getting locked down, I'm guessing they're like, I ain't gonna wait to go to the United States. They're kind of getting policey up there, so I don't think that's going to be a major problem. So as coronavirus spreads through the country, activists are calling on politicians in office to release prisoners and immigrants held in detention centers, both of which can be hotbed of virus activity with so many people in close quarters and limited or non-existent supplies of soap, sanitizer, and protective equipment. In other words, these people are dirty because you're throwing them in a goddamn prison for walking, for being here, because you have a little border that the little imaginary line on the ground that you said I can throw a 5-year-old into a cell because of. It's so unethical and so beyond the pale of how absolutely tyrannical our government already was. So some states have already begun to do so. But with this, the Trump administration is taking steps to hold more people in prison for an undetermined amount of time, showing their priority is not saving lives, but giving themselves more power. Absolutely. Truer words have never been spoken. But I would just take it a little farther than the Trump administration. Everyone in government is showing that their priority is not saving lives, but giving themselves more power. Like they are good at using it. No, what do they do with it? They take money from you, take liberties from you, and take your children and throw them across the world into conflicts we shouldn't be in. So that is all bull. And that is happening. And that is happening around the corner. And if you don't think that it's coming, then you need to get ready for it. It is time to stand up. It is time to start saying in a loud voice, we will not put up with it anymore. We're done. Stand up. Go outside. Make yourself known. I'm not saying go hug on an old guy. I'm not saying that at all. I'm not saying you need to go out and just on somebody. You know, that obviously. This is a smoothie. It's a fruit smoothie. It's packed with all kinds of vitamin C and whatnot. I'm taking the precautions that I need to take to keep myself healthy. As that relates, this happened, and I want to, before I get into this, I want to say none of this is provable, and I'm going to get into it in my article. But for the first time in Aquarian Anarchy, I'm actually going to share something that is mine. This is something I wrote. As many of you know that follow my channel, I am the press secretary for Adam Kokesh. I think that what Adam is doing is amazing, and I think that he, if nothing else, is bringing attention to the out-of-control government and calling for people to restrict their power. If you don't agree with Adam's platform, fine. But you have to say, there is nothing more scary to these power-hungry bastards than somebody saying, you have no more power. I'm going to dissolve what power you have and return it closer to the people. That is a powerful message that needs to be spread. So, that being said, this is my article that I released on Monday. I'm recording this on Tuesday. On Steemit. And it is called Libertarian Party Presidential Candidate Gets COVID-19. Still more concerned with the government response hurting others. And I'm just going to read this. It is difficult to get tested in the United States for COVID-19. We'll start there. It is difficult. Adam has now, since this was released, tried. He has tried to get tested because he is afraid that he has COVID-19. He may not, but he has tried, and they have said, no, you can't get tested. You know, he has went out because he's trying to make it clear to people where he could stay that he is either, you know, got it and or is over it, or some kind of information. But of course, the government stood in the way. I continue in my article. The late reaction of the government to this virus has been irresponsible, reactionary, and has shown little regard for public safety. From the beginning, Washington has sent conflicting signals and focused more on how they can use the virus for political gain. Those in power have sought to drive up fear and panic while looking to profit financially. Throughout the country, people are looking for reliable information. Earlier this week, the leading Libertarian Party presidential candidate, Adam Kokesh, took to Facebook to not only give leadership, but to share information. The candidate has traveled all over the country for months. On Saturday, he announced on his Facebook live stream that he believes that he has contracted the coronavirus. Again, he isn't completely sure. How can he be? Because they have made it impossible for him to verify it. It makes no sense to me at all. It is not certain whether Kokesh, his wife Sam, hi Sam if you're watching this, she's a great lady, I'm really glad to have gotten to meet her a couple weeks ago, and the driver of the campaign bus, his name's Dave, great guy too, on the campaign bus, No Force One, have the virus. It is not certain. Those in government seem to be the priority for testing, leaving people again to guess. A good example is a recent announcement that Rand Paul has been diagnosed with the virus. So Rand's got it. They didn't have a bit of problems getting Rand tested. Why? Because he is a senator. He's in the government. We got to make sure that these government officials get their test, but the people, screw them. Kokesh has described his symptoms, which match the COVID-19 symptoms. He also has said that he feels great and is recovering quickly, which is fantastic. Just to be clear, Adam has spent a lot of time at my home over the past 3 weeks. I feel great. Do I have a bit of a cold? Yes. Could I have COVID-19? Maybe. Am I going to go hug an old person? Absolutely not. I'm going to sit at home, I'm going to drink my smoothie, and I'm going to get over it. I feel fine, just so you know. His description of the virus is, quote, "It's a weird little flu. Kokesh and the others have chosen to self-quarantine as they travel to his ranch in Arizona, the Garden of Freedom. What troubles the activist turned presidential candidate is not the virus, but the government's response to it. Recently, the Department of Justice has sought congressional approval to suspend habeas corpus over the pandemic. This event is another example of how America is too good for this government, according to Kokesh. Each community knows how best to handle their particular situation. We can come together and help one another voluntarily and in the spirit of love. Quote, "We do not have to be united under one government to be united in American values." He also pointed out to the fact that his plan to localize government would handle a crisis better than the current model being used by the selfish and incompetent federal government. Politicians, again, are using an emergency to attack civil liberties. I've seen the effect of this in my own community. I live in a small town in Indiana. In my small town, we have a privately run food bank that helps, poor people in our community. Well, they have it's already done, organized a volunteer effort to get food to people if they can't get food. If they close things down, my wife and I have already volunteered to help them by driving around our community and taking people food. It's already handled in my local community. But the federal government can't do a frickin' thing. They are busy arguing and trying to attack each other. It is beyond me how anybody thinks that this could possibly be a solution to anything. The fact that that we're having this conversation should be everything you need to know. So, to go on in my article, sorry, lost my place for a second. Got a new computer and having to learn it. So, is this pandemic concerning? Kokesh answers, quote, "Absolutely, and precautions should be taken," end quote. "It is not a time for panic. Instead, it is time for communities to come together and help one another. This virus seems to affect more seriously the elderly and the immunocompromised. We should be focused on helping those people instead of hyping and frightening the healthy in order to give power to the already out-of-control central government." So, again, this is affecting people, but it isn't that big of a deal. To back that up, I mentioned Rand Paul earlier. This is an NBC article by Alan Smith. Rand Paul became the first senator known to test positive for coronavirus. Paul's Twitter account said he, quote, "is feeling fine and is quarantined." Rand Paul, Republican from Kentucky, on Sunday, became the first senator known to have tested positive for COVID-19. Quote, "Senator Rand Paul has tested positive for COVID-19. End quote. Hey, what's funny is they keep repeating the same thing over and over and over. Oh, Rand's got it, Rand's got it. Paul account tweeted, "He is feeling fine and is in quarantine. He is asymptomatic." He is asymptomatic. For those in grade school, that means he doesn't have symptoms. He has nothing. Adam has it worse than he does, if Adam has it. And has tested out of an abundance of caution, so due to his extensive travel and events. So he was not aware of any direct contact with any infected person. Okay, I want to dive into that. So Rand got tested when he has no symptoms. Rand got tested when he has not come into contact with anyone he knows infected. Adam, on the other hand, he's in the middle of the road. He's been all over the country, just like Rand. And you know what? He is pretty sure he's come in contact with it. And he is symptomatic. He has a few of the symptoms. And cannot get tested. Cannot. But boy, got to get this senator tested, even though he's asymptomatic. Quote, he expects to be back in the Senate after his quarantine period ends and will continue to work for the people of Kentucky at this difficult time, end quote. The thread continued, quote, 10 days ago, our D.C. office began operating remotely. Hence, virtually no staff has contact with Senator Rand Paul. Paul's chief of staff later clarified that he decided to get tested, after attending an event where 2 individuals subsequently tested positive for COVID-19. I'm sure they were government officials as well, even though he wasn't aware of any direct contact with either one of them. So, again, this is an airborne virus. It is going to spread. They are not. If they can't keep Rand Paul from getting it, how the hell are they going to expect other people to get it? And he didn't have any known contact. So he caught it in the air. Of course. So, Senator Jerry Moran, Republican from Kansas, told colleagues at Sunday policy meeting that he saw Paul at the Senate gym earlier in the day. His communication director confirmed on Twitter. Paul's account later tweeted that he visited the gym before he found out he had tested positive. So again, they're just trying to attack Rand Paul because, oh no, Rand Paul's got to be taken down and attacked. Instead of saying, oh great, stay in your house, buddy. No, they're like, how can we turn this into an attack against Rand Paul? Paul is the 3rd member of Congress to announce a positive test for the coronavirus, following Representatives Mario Diaz-Balazar, Republican from Florida, and Ben McAdams, Democrat from Utah. Several Republican lawmakers also self-quarantined this month after they learned that they had interacted with someone who tested positive for the virus at the Conservative Political Action Conference. The White House said President Donald Trump, who attended CPAC and also interacted with multiple people at his Florida resort who later found out they were infected, tested negative for the virus. At least the virus has some taste. It's like, man tastes a little freedom. He's got at least a little bit of spice of freedom. Let's go check out the president. So the virus flies over to the president like, that tastes just like tyranny. That's nasty. Tyranny tastes awful. so yeah, this is all a load of crap. So in an interview with NBC News, Diaz-Balart said Saturday he is feeling better after a week, but the initial symptoms hit him like a ton of bricks. Meanwhile, McAdams said on Today's show that the symptoms felt like I had a belt around my chest and I couldn't breathe deeply. Paul, a libertarian-leaning physician, forced a delay on the Senate's first coronavirus, here comes the attack, coronavirus aid bill by pushing a doomed amendment. He later voted against it. Paul's diagnosis has triggered a discussion about whether senators, many of whom are in older age brackets, should go home immediately or self-quarantine. Yeah, forever. Yes, the answer to that is yes. They should all self-quarantine forever. All of the government, everybody in government. You can get the and lobbyists. Let's take the lobbyists home too. Get all of them out. They are unessential people for sure, because the government is unessential. Most unessential person is the President of the United States, Donald Trump, and then after him is the next least in the whole country, by the way, not just in the government. He's the least essential person, and then we'll go after Mike Pence. Mike Pence. Just a little bit, Trump's the least, then Mike Pence, and then we'll go with Nancy Pelosi, and then just take it on down the line. Those are the most unessential people that we have in this entire culture. The news created fresh uncertainty about how Congress can finish and pass emergency coronavirus legislation on which Democrats and Republicans still struggling to reach a deal. They have no problem taking care of each other, but boy, they definitely can't take care of the people. Senators Mike Lee and Mitt Romney, both Utah Republicans, were the first two lawmakers to say they would be self-quarantined for 2 weeks after having had extended interactions with Paul and would have to miss floor votes. Speaking in the White House Coronavirus Task Force press conference on Sunday, Trump offered well wishes, saying, "I want to just say that Senator Rand Paul is a friend of mine. Rand was a friend of mine. Rand was a friend of mine. He has been a great friend of mine." Trump's such an idiot. He's a great friend of mine, which means I'm so glad that asshole's not talking to me anymore. Always there when we needed him, when the country needed him. This dude says the same thing over and over. Trump said that he and Paul have not had any recent in-person reaction. Of course not, because you don't talk to people that give a shit. When Trump was told Romney was also in quarantine, he said sarcastically, "Romney is in isolation." Gee, that's too bad. Painting like Romney isn't closer to his agenda. I mean, come on. Anyway, the reason is because nobody likes Romney. Everybody that are statists like Rand Paul, at least the Republican statists like Rand Paul. So he's got to get those libertarian-leaning Republicans to continue to vote for stupid shit. Anyway, Senator Kristen Sinema, Democrat from Arizona, criticized Paul in a tweet, calling his gym visit absolutely irresponsible. Because, like I said, they're more concerned about attacking, and he didn't have any idea when he went to the gym that he had it. So you cannot be near other people while waiting for coronavirus test results, she wrote. It endangers others and likely increase the spread of the virus. Shut your mouth. You're a virus yourself. The biggest virus that's being spread around is the statist bullcrap of grabbing power. So shut your damn mouth, stupid. Anyway, Paul suffered lung damage as a result of having his ribs broken during an altercation with a neighbor in 2017. Last year, he had part of his lungs removed. Paul's chief of staff told NBC, because they were trying to attack him physically, anyway, Paul's chief of staff told NBC that the surgery puts the senator, quote, in a higher risk category as it relates to pulmonary issues. His father, former Representative Rand Paul, Republican from Texas, who is also a doctor, last week referred to the coronavirus as a hoax, because it is. The pandemic has infected more than 300,000 people worldwide, according to the Johns Hopkins University, in a world where there are millions and billions of people. Okay? Again, this is all bullcrap. So, my commentary. Stop freaking the fuck out and giving power to psychopaths. It is really that flippin' simple. Stop doing it. Stop your inane need to give power to psychopaths, because they take it. This is nothing more than that. You know, I can't get how the people do not get it. I don't understand how people are actually arguing to extend this bull crap. I don't get it. What have they done right? What have they done right? Give me an example of something they've done right. Government has bungled this whole thing from the very beginning. Talking about China, the Chinese government just silenced everybody and bungled the crap out of it. Or the United States government, which can't seem to do a goddamn thing right. So stop giving power to psychopaths. They are just using this to fill their self with power. So on to my quote. And this is, and the thing is, I use this one a lot because they do it a lot. But this is by Friedrich Hayek, F.A. Hayek. He said, "Emergencies have always been the pretext on which the safeguards of individual liberty have been eroded." That is absolutely true. Every time there is some kind of emergency that goes on, they rush out to take freedom away. their reaction isn't, how can we help? The reaction is, how can we profit? What can we do to make ourselves more powerful in this instance? Every time. There is never a time that's not true. And the American people absolutely are the ones doing it. We're the ones giving them power. Stop it. Stop giving power to psychopaths. Stop doing it. It is time to localize government. It is time to say no. It is time to stand up and take your power back. You own yourself. You are in charge of your destiny. Sure, don't go out. Wash your hands. Wash your body. And don't share what you got with other people. Okay? It is not that difficult. It's not that hard to figure out. So, again, if you have liked this, please hit that little like button, share it, and if you like anything that you see, you like this shirt, you can go, I think that I've got it in Aquarian Anarchy. If not, you can search for it in all things Kokesh. But I'm pretty sure that we've got it in the Aquarian Anarchy store as well. If you like the banner behind me, buy it. Go check out my store, buy some stuff. You don't need to. It's not, we gotta do it, because without you, I'm not gonna do it. I'm gonna still do this. Is free for me. I just got me a new camera. I don't know if you noticed, but I did. It wasn't from a bunch of people. I just saved the money and got it. Because I believe that my voice is important. Just like I believe your voice is important. And it is time for us to stand up together and say no to an out-of-control, centralized federal government. Stay free.